Tartarian Weekly Research highlights coverage through July 22, 2026. Executive Summary: No authenticated archaeological discovery, official archive release, or peer-reviewed study appeared this week proving a suppressed, technologically advanced global Tartarian civilization. The most useful new development is in scientific methodology. July 2026 research on historic mortars and 2026 work using deep learning to compare historical maps are improving the tools available to test claims about unusual construction materials, changing city layouts, and buried architecture. On the speculative side, podcasts and alternative history media continue joining Tartaria to mud floods, erased maps, World's Fair buildings, and lost energy technology. But the quality of supporting evidence has not materially improved. 1. Stronger evidence developments. Historic mortar research offers a testable path. A July 2026 study examines mortar from the tomb chamber of the Holy Aedicule in Jerusalem to determine its production technology. This is directly relevant to claims that monumental historic buildings contain inexplicable or lost construction materials. Instead of judging masonry by appearance, researchers can analyze binder composition, aggregate structure, manufacturing techniques, and physical properties. Related 2025 research characterized mortars from 5 historic monuments in northeastern Poland through physical, microstructural, and moisture-related analysis. The purpose was to understand original building traditions and design compatible conservation treatments. Assessment: strong scientific evidence that historic mortar technologies can be reconstructed through laboratory analysis. It does not prove Tartarian technology, but it creates a valid procedure for testing particular buildings. I can now compare urban change across historical map series. A 2026 study introduced a deep learning framework that aligns historical maps, detects objects, and profiles urban change over time. Applied to maps of Paris from 1868 to 1937, it moved historical map analysis from informal visual comparison toward quantitative measurement of changes in streets and urban structures. This has direct value for Tartaria-adjacent investigations. Claims that a district appeared, overnight, that buildings vanished from maps, or that city plans were radically reset can increasingly be examined through aligned map sequences rather than isolated screenshots. Assessment: strong methodological development. It may test future Tartaria claims, but it is not itself evidence for a hidden civilization. Robotic and digital restoration show how complex masonry can be documented. Recent heritage science research describes an integrated workflow combining photographs, 3D reconstruction, extended reality, computer-aided design, and robotic assembly to restore damaged historic masonry. The researchers tested it on a historic screen wall in China. Why this matters: ornate masonry may look impossible when viewed only as a finished object. Digital reconstruction can reveal component geometry, assembly order, repair logic, and labor requirements. 2. Historical and cartographic findings. The strongest institutional interpretation remains the Library of Congress explanation that Tartary, or Tartaria, was a shifting Western cartographic term used from approximately the 13th through 19th centuries. The territory carrying the label varied considerably between maps. Authentic examples remain available in major collections. The Library of Congress holds a 1757 map of the Great Tartary, based on travelers' reports and observations. The New York Public Library hosts a digitized map titled Tartaria dated 1603. The David Rumsey Collection hosts the 1637 map Tartary. Tartaria. These maps strongly verify the historical use of the name. Their changing boundaries and subdivisions are more consistent with an evolving European geographic label than with clear documentation of one centrally administered worldwide state. 3. Speculative and conspiracy-oriented developments. Why did Tartaria disappear? remains a growing media format. A June 14, 2026 podcast episode presented old maps, early encyclopedias, Russian records, buried buildings, mud floods, and alleged lost technology as parts of the Tartaria mystery. Its description promises examination of evidence and criticism, but the grouping reflects the continuing expansion of Tartaria from a cartographic question into an all-purpose hidden history narrative. Assessment. Useful for tracking public claims, but not a primary historical or scientific source. Mud flood claims remain central. A June 2026 pseudo-archaeology program addressed Tartaria and the mud flood directly, rejecting the alleged civilization and global catastrophe as unsupported. Alternative history proponents continue using basement windows, lower entrances, and filled urban levels as evidence of a recent worldwide catastrophe. However, urban archaeology recognizes that long-occupied cities accumulate demolition debris, waste, fill, rebuilding layers, roadworks, and infrastructure deposits that can raise ground levels over long periods. Assessment. Local buried levels are real and deserve site-specific investigation. A recent worldwide mud flood remains unsupported by a global, consistently dated geological layer. Tartaria increasingly functions as composite internet folklore. Recent summaries describe a narrative in which authentic old maps are combined with demolished buildings, World's Fair architecture, mud floods, advanced technology, and institutional suppression. The details vary substantially among proponents, and no single evidentiary model has emerged. Assessment. Strong evidence of an evolving cultural movement, weak evidence for its historical claims. 4. Credibility table. Claim or research area. Current assessment. Historical maps labeled Tartaria exist. Verified, Tartary, changed location and meaning across maps. Strongly supported historic mortar composition can be scientifically reconstructed. Strongly supported AI can quantify changes across historical city maps. Strongly supported some buildings have buried or altered lower levels. Verified case-by-case. Local floods, street raising, fill, and reconstruction explain many buried levels. Historically plausible and testable. Worldwide. 18th–19th century mud flood. Unsupported monumental architecture formed a wireless energy network. Highly speculative. World's Fair buildings were inherited. Tartarian cities unsupported without site-specific records. A suppressed global Tartarian civilization has now been proven. No credible evidence this week. 5. Best research lead this week. The most promising project would combine historic map alignment with physical materials analysis. For a selected city or building, collect maps from several dates and digitally align them. Identify when streets, building footprints, and elevations changed. Gather permits, construction photographs, fire records, flood records, and engineering drawings. Sample mortar or masonry only with proper conservation approval. Compare laboratory dating and composition with the documented construction chronology. Record whether the alternative claim is confirmed, weakened, or left unresolved. This approach could transform broad claims such as, "This building was inherited," or "The city was buried," into questions capable of producing measurable answers. The new map analysis and mortar research methods show that such testing is increasingly feasible. Bottom line. This week produced better tools, not proof of Tartaria. Historical maps continue confirming that Tartary was a genuine and widely used name. Scientific advances in mortar analysis, digital reconstruction, and historical map comparison make it easier to investigate specific anomalies rigorously. The mud flood, free energy, and erased global empire narratives remain active, but no newly authenticated physical artifact, archival chain of custody, or peer-reviewed findings substantially strengthened them. Global Robotics Corporation. Robert Colee.